Hello, everyone, and welcome to the January edition of the Big Rican Presents the Wiseguys Sports Show here on the Big Rican on Sports podcast and on our Facebook and YouTube pages live tonight. And why are we live tonight? Because it's my birthday, and damn it, I'll party if I want to.
You're an old fart. I still got you by about 4 months, but yeah.
So you're older than me. As always, ladies and gentlemen, my guest host for the Wise Guy Show is Mr. JC Blue Note himself, Jim Cornetti. James, it's been 20 days since we spoke, sir, and a lot has gone on.
Really?
Yeah, January 1st. Really?
No, I know that, but it has really that much going on.
I mean, if you think about it, and we talk, let's start with the day that we spoke first. And as you see, I'm wearing the gear from said game we were previewing that day. That was a heck of an ending to that one, you think?
Yeah, it's
He's got an Al Bundy jersey on. That's amazing.
Christmas gift for my brother.
That was a big shock. How is your brother, by the way?
What's that?
How is your brother, by the way?
Hit and miss. It's going through some personal stuff. Won't get into that here. It's we all have really good tickets for AEW taping at Wolstein on Wednesday nights. So it's going to be the boys getting together. It's me, Adam, and him. So the three amigos and everything. The AOV, if you remember that.
I remember the AOV. I remember. Oh wow! Oh, what was his last name? Big tall dude, went to school with us.
Jeff Polsner.
Jeff Polsner.
Yep, the Mad Monster. He's living down in South Carolina. And I know that Seth Landisman's down there too.
Yes, he is.
I think he's in North. I think House. What we call them houses or tugboats. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think tugboats in North Carolina because he's always tweeting and Facebook him at Canes games.
Yeah, no, he is in North Carolina, but listen, he's still a solid dude. From even a little bit I talked to him in the short amount in the few conversations we've had in the last 20 plus years.
Right. It's And gotta say, it's right before we get started here. Two things. Number one, happy birthday, buddy. We're now officially the same age for about 4 more months. Exactly 4 months from today.
Nice.
And I actually was thinking of all kinds of practical jokes. I was actually thinking of like canceling the strippers. I was actually thinking of like because I've been obsessed with like those Sam Adams commercials with your cousin from Boston. And so I wanted to like come on and talk for like the first 5 minutes in a Boston accent, like Smart Pack. It's
nice.
And
nice.
I figure with you being a Mets fan, I couldn't work on the dialect most of the day, but I'll find a way to get you.
Very nice. Very nice. Speaking of, did you see the picture I just sent you?
My Facebook is actually being a pain in the butt right now, but I'm trying to load it.
It's a shirt the 7 Line did, and it looks like it's a campaign slogan shirt, and it says DeGrom Scherzer 22.
It is.
I pre-ordered that sucker.
That's good. It just came up. That's not bad at all.
No, I love it. I absolutely
what's funny is that one of the other jokes is I was actually going to make a $500 donation in your name to the Donald Trump Get Out of Jail Free Fund or something like that.
Don't do that. Don't do that. That's just you could have bought me a Yankee jersey. That would have been worse. I mean, come on.
Would it have been worse of talking like a Boston accent for the next 5 minutes?
See, the Boston thing doesn't bug me all that much because every time the Mets play Boston, they beat them. So, that wouldn't bug me as much as if I was a crosstown fan. But by the way, the over-under on us going off the rails was 10 minutes where we blew that out of the water.
And I was going to say, how many wheels have already come off it? So I think I put the over-under at 3.
Yeah, we're pushing 4.
Right.
So let's go.
We're Flintstoning it at this point.
I got big enough feet. Anyway. So just going back to the Rose Bowl for a minute, and then we'll get into the Cavs and the Browns from there. And I will ask you that question I asked John that you said you forgot already.
Yes, I think I forgot about it about 5 minutes after I watched the show. I wish you would have tipped me off. And it was also that was the other thing I was going to bring up. It's good seeing John. I haven't seen John since graduation, which was 26 years ago. Boy,
Yeah.
dude looks good.
Yeah, and the last time I saw him, we were actually working at Dick's Sporting Goods in Mayfield Heights together. When I was working there in college.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's just about as long for me.
I'm thinking Dixon Mayfield, like the one that was in Highland next to Home Depot.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I know that closed up. Okay, yeah, that one closed up a few years ago. It's only the one at Legacy. I think they turned it into they split it into a couple of things. It's like a Skechers outfitter, and they really actually did a lot with that area too.
Yeah, well, I've seen Legacy since it's been done because I've been out there. I mean, I went to the Clada was there for years.
Yeah, it is now. Oh, I cannot think of the name. I want to say it's Barley House. I know it's like one of the official bars and restaurants associated with the Browns and the radio telecast, but I can't remember exactly which one.
Okay. Yeah, I want to say my tenure was 07, and I didn't get to my reunion, but I went out later in the year. And I went with a friend of mine out there to dinner, and I loved it. It was great. So let's jump back into January 1st. As I said on my wrap for this, we both expected Ohio State to win. We did expect a multi-score game. Listen, Utah came to play.
Yeah.
I mean, Utah came to play. I love their quarterback, by the way. That kid is good. And the kick returner.
I think that kid's coming back next year.
He is, but the kick returner is going to be electric at the next level too.
Yes, it's which actually would be very nice to actually see somebody kind of take a flyer on that and use him as an actual specialist as opposed to try to convert him like everybody else does now.
Yeah, and since you like that team that plays against Kansas City this weekend, like the old Steve Tasker type.
Yeah, but that was actually but he was also. I mean, I've only been a Bills fan really since my Sabres fandom has kind of come back in the last few years.
Yeah, but who was the one? Don Beebe was the wide receiver. Tasker the one who had like the double helmet?
No, that was Don Beebe. No. It was Tasker. Don Beebe's the one who landed on his head.
That's right.
In the playoff game.
Yep.
Felix Wright.
Mm-hmm. So here's what I didn't expect out of that game. I did not expect what C.J. Stroud and Jackson Smith and Jigba did in that game. I mean, if you could have heard Herb Street, did you watch any of that? Because you were watching the Blues that night. They were on a
I was watching Winter Classic.
If you could have heard Herb Street on the final throw, that slot fade to Smith and Jigba in the corner, he didn't know what was better, the throw or the catch. But the best moment of the night was not anything to do with the game. It was they were doing Carmen, Ohio, like they do after every game, which is tradition, and Herbie actually hushed Fowler.
Yeah, you told me about that.
And because he's like, I got to hear this because I didn't know this. Herbie's kid is one of the backup tight ends.
Yep. Yeah,
because I knew the other two boys went to Clemson.
Yeah, because Herbie actually goes on Carmen and Lima, or like at least a couple of times a year during the leading up to college football season, during college football season, and everything. And Carmen and Lima are the morning show on 92.3 The Fan in Cleveland.
And I got to tell you something. They I don't know if I told you this. They named the television booth after him at the Rose Bowl.
Herbie?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Next year, he will break Keith Jackson's records for most Rose Bowls called.
That actually makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I prefer the Fox show now because of how much I can't stand ESPN, but Herbie is just different. Herbie's just a different level.
Yes. Yeah, but
And
a lot of that's a lot. I mean, Herbie's great. Herbie, I've always been a fan of Herbie. It's Herbie was one of my quarterbacks when I was a Buckeye fan, but it's also because Brad Nessler, not Brad Nessler, what's his name? He was in the ESPN games.
Musburger,
No, who's his tag team partner usually?
Fowler now.
Fowler, yeah, but Fowler is just so damn good.
He really is. I mean, I would love a game where you had your pick of Fowler and Herbstreit or Gus and Joel.
4-man booth.
Oh, that would just be phenomenal.
They do it on WrestleMania. Why can't they do it for college football? You know?
Was McAfee in the 4-man booth for WrestleMania? Because that would have been amazing.
I don't really recall because WWE is so unwatchable anymore. I honestly have not watched anything voluntarily of theirs in about a year.
I would throw on SmackDown one week because apparently McAfee is just off the rails.
Yeah, I think the last time I watched anything was where they actually got caught up coming. I think like the last time I legitimately watched SmackDown was when they were coming back from one of their Blood Money Saudi shows and got delayed, and they had to bring all the NXT guys over, and Adam Cole was on SmackDown. And I'll actually be see Adam Cole in the main event Wednesday night at Wolstein.
Oh, he's in AEW now. Nice.
Yep, he's actually with his girlfriend Britt Baker now, and they're in an angle, so it's so much cooler because we remember watching Britt Baker on the Indies in Cleveland when she was trained by Johnny Gargano, who's expected to make his AEW debut Wednesday night.
You were telling me about that on the first. That's going to be huge. And you went to Chicago for CM Punk, right?
We went to Chicago for Punk. We're expecting Johnny to, because Frankie actually used to, when he worked on the Indies, I think he worked with Johnny a few times. I've met Johnny and Candice LeRae, his wife, and two of the nicest wrestlers I've ever met. And honestly, I'd love to see them show up kind of, steering it off, the Rose Bowl for just a second, because Johnny, as great as he is, has never wrestled on TV in his hometown before.
Wow.
Yeah.
You would think somebody who's done it as long as Johnny has would have done that by now.
Yeah, but they never actually, every time they came to Cleveland, every time WWE came to Cleveland, he wasn't on the SmackDown roster. And every time they toured with NXT, they weren't TV tapings because they always taped NXT down in Florida every week at their training center. Geez. Yeah.
What a joke.
All right, so that's why they're unwatchable.
Yeah. Well, listen, I haven't, honestly, I think the last time I was big into it, Goldberg was still in WCW.
He's back in WWE.
I think you had said, get him off my television.
Yeah, it's honestly put on Wednesday night, even set your DVR or something for TBS, DVR Dynamite, or even Friday Night Show Rampage, because they're taping them one right after the other. I think they're on TNT now, but it's honestly it's some of the best wrestling you'll see. It's not this overproduced, over promoted crap. It's just really good stuff to watch.
Yeah, and I thought I saw a few weeks ago on the anniversary, was either Eddie Guerrero's the anniversary of his death or his birthday. Did Benoit hit a frog splash to end a match?
It naturally wasn't Benoit. I'm trying to remember who that was.
Not Benoit. It was Jericho.
Yes.
Benoit.
Jericho was still around.
Oh, God, what am I doing?
Jericho's band Fozzy, when he comes to the ring, they sing his theme song. There have been instances where they've cut the music and the fans still sing the song all the way to the end.
Really?
It is one of the coolest entrances you will ever see.
Better than Sandman in the whole arena singing Enter Sandman. I knew I was getting you with that one.
Because I ripped that entrance off in the AOV.
I know you did. I
was the only one stupid enough to smash, because I was also the only one old enough to drink to be able to get the beer cans to smash.
That's very true. So I'm going to ask you a quick question, because, again, you're not a fan, but you can analyze it. How scary is that offense going to be next year with those guys coming back? Stroud's a freshman. Travion Henderson's a freshman. Smith and Jigba's a true sophomore. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a true freshman. Oh, by the way, had 5 catches all year, 3 touchdowns in the Rose Bowl. Emeka Ibuka, true sophomore. Julian Fleming, true sophomore. They got line depth that's young. And now they got a DC who can do the job. They have added 2 new position coaches and in the transfer portal have gotten guys from Oklahoma State to follow Jim Knowles to Columbus. A lot of people are saying the first time Urban played Team Up North at home and beat them, he won a national title because that 2012 season really didn't count. This will be Ryan Day's first game at the Shoe against Team Up North. We're going to get to their coach in a minute. Can they pull this off? If they fix the defense.
I'm not trying to jump too far ahead because you said we were going to talk about khaki pants here in a minute.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump forward for a second, but then I'm going to jump 2 steps back.
Okay.
If he bolts, then yes, because honestly, there's nobody in the Big Ten who's going to be able to stand with them. But it might be, I don't want to say fool's gold. It might be kind of like Oklahoma syndrome because they actually might be in a conference that deep. They might be the only one who's actually legitimately going to come out of that, and partially by default, if that makes any sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense. I will say this. Khaki Pants' team was a lot of upperclassmen, and his big hitters were leaving.
Yes.
Because Aiden Hutchinson's probably going to go number 1 overall.
If not number 1, he'll probably get. I would say the worst case scenario, he goes 3. We got to see what the combine looks like between him, Thibodeau, and I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if Kenny Pickett from pitch shoots way up the board as well.
Yeah, I can see Pickett shooting up there too. But yeah, listen. Then let's jump into Jimmy right now. And I'm going to give you your props for telling me you thought he was going to take the Raider job, and now that's all it seems to be. Is that because I think the Raiders are either going to keep the coach they have now, who took over for Gruden when he was forced to step down. You're right, or it's Harbaugh. And give me your reasons why. You said you had some reasons why you want to save it for the show. Why the Raider job? And why not the Bears?
I think he's got more upside with the Raider job. Hell, they were in the playoffs and they were one really, really shoddy call away from winning that game. It's because let's be honest, it's I know we're not going to talk a ton about the playoffs tonight. We'll touch on a little bit here. But that play, every single person, every analyst, every announcer said that play should have actually been replayed. It never should have gone off. The second that whistle blew, regardless of when it was, players started giving up, officials started giving up. So, but I think he's got a lot more upside with the Raiders because I actually see, Denver might be on the way up. Kansas City might be on the way down next year. The Chargers, I'd like to think the Chargers are on their way up, but I want to say that Justin Herbert might have been a little bit more exposed and might not be as good as we think he is. He's still very good, but it might be a little bit more overblown, a little bit far fetched at this point. But I think he's got tons more upside because he's already, if they keep Derek Carr and they've actually got, with a lot of their weapons and everything, it's a lot more beneficial of a situation for him as opposed to having to go to a team like the Bears, who's going to end up, they're still rebuilding. They're going to have a first-year quarterback. They're going to have a very high draft pick. It's going to be a 3 to 5 year plan for them still, even 1 year in.
Well, no, and I see your point there. My only thing with the Bears job was that, he could mold it the way he wanted to. When he took the 49er job, he had a number one pick in Alex Smith. And they won with Alex Smith. They didn't get to the pinnacle, but they won with Alex Smith. And then Harbaugh went out and drafted Cap and really molded his offense to be what Kaepernick needed it to be in order to go farther. I mean, come on, they're a power outage away from winning a Super Bowl.
Potentially, but I was actually cheering for the Ravens that year, so I actually won't argue. It's I wanted to see Ray. It's I actually wanted to see Ray Lewis get his ring.
Ray Lewis has 2. He was on the one in 2001.
I agree, but it was his curtain call, so I wanted to see him kind of go.
And I get that. It's kind of like Peyton. I was rooting for Peyton.
Yeah, it's my Ray Lewis might be one of my 3 or 4. He's definitely on my Mount Rushmore of favorite players, and he might be the best defensive player I've seen in my lifetime, and that's including Lawrence Taylor.
I was in New York when LT was playing. When he wasn't hopped up on coke, or maybe when he was an absolute.
He was, but let's also keep in mind that Ray Lewis not only could rush the passer and stuff the run, but could drop into coverage as well. Something that LT never did. And also, Ray Lewis had side-to-side lateral speed to be able to get across the field that LT could only dream of.
I don't know. LT was pretty quick for that size.
He was, but it was only going across the line. If it was actually between the hash marks, he really actually didn't do a whole lot of pursuit and chase downs. That's what Ray Lewis made a career out of that.
That's very true. He helped transform the position.
Yes.
Middle line. I mean, him and Urlacher really were the middle linebackers in our lifetime, who really brought the position to a new height. LT brought that outside linebacker DN to a new height, along with Reggie White, of course.
Very much like exactly. It's like, in LT's era, it was like him, Derek Thomas, Kevin Green, all guys who could actually play outside linebacker or defensive end.
Yeah. So, all right, Harbaugh to the Raiders. I see the Giants hired a new GM today, whoever he is. Who cares?
I also think the other thing with Harbaugh is that, especially as chaotic as they are right now, and as much as he likes to win the press conference, it's Harbaugh would actually be very, very good at working with children. Let's be honest.
Yeah, and
that was my primary reason, a little tongue in cheek, why he takes that job, because he'd be working with children on the West Coast.
Basically. The other thing about that job that interests me is that with the injuries and the stupidity, they need a wide receiver core.
Yeah, but and also, let's be honest, Harbaugh has really had no problem with his wide receivers since he's been up there.
No, he had DPJ. He had who was he caught 2 touchdowns in 2019. What was his name?
And then also the kid who torched the Buckeyes a couple of months ago.
Yeah, but that was a running back. The passing game didn't do a whole lot. The running backs were the ones that did it. And he's got Brandon Jacobs. And he's got Brandon Jacobs with the Raiders.
Yeah, completely agree. Exactly. It's a little bit better of a situation for him. He's set up better. Even though he's 58 years old, I don't think he wants to go through a rebuild at the next level.
I don't think he
wants to put that kind of time in.
No, I don't think he does either. I don't think he's going to coach much longer. If you think about what he's done, is he rebuilt San Diego State, he rebuilt Stanford, and then he goes to the NFL and wins a lot with San Francisco, almost to a Super Bowl, and then he goes to the only logical place in college he could have gone to.
And let's also be honest, except for a year or so, did a lot of winning at Michigan State, just not enough, though.
No, when you go 1-5 against your main arch rival, you're not going to be remembered fondly.
Right.
Don't let this year, and that's the thing that's killed me with the media, don't let this year rewrite the script, guys. He's 1-5. John Cooper is a Hall of Fame coach in the College Football Hall of Fame. He was 2-11. against them. And no one in Columbus could care less what John Cooper does now.
Yeah, but also if you think about it with Harbaugh, he really did everything up there that he wanted to. He had winning seasons, he got to bowl games, he got bowl wins, he won a conference title, and he beat Ohio State. The only thing that's missing off of that resume is a national championship, and he was in the national semifinal.
Yeah, he's checked all the boxes except really making it a rivalry again.
Right.
Which, again, you and I talked about when we previewed the game. We thought this was the second coming of the 10-year war. We thought this was Urban and Harbaugh, a la Woody and Bo. We didn't get it.
And then watch somebody come out of nowhere, take the Raider job, and this is all a moot point in a few weeks.
And next November, you and I are talking about these two teams slugging it out in the horseshoe. So I want to move on from Harbaugh, and I want to get to what you and I were talking about today on Twitter. Yeah. This fan base needs a flipping wake-up call. An absolute wake-up call. And it's not the whole fan base. Let me say this. Cleveland Browns fans are probably some of the most passionate sports fans in the history of sports.
They're also some of the dumbest.
These morons on Twitter are taking it to the next flipping level. The idiot who actually tried to call out Hollywood for not putting on social media about Baker. I'm sorry. We're cool. If I knew you were having a procedure done, I'm sending you a text message or a private message somewhere. I'm not putting it on Twitter. Go, yo, JC, you all right? No, that's not how this works. The idiocy coming out of Brown's Twitter, and then Sir Yacht, who I absolutely adore.
The organizer of the 0-16 parade, for those of you in the audience who aren't aware.
Yeah, can we talk about that for a minute? We're 4 years removed from not winning a game.
Yeah.
They were 8-9 kids, and they were 3 defensive stops away from winning a division and hosting a playoff game.
Yeah, and also, where's my props for calling that? Where's my props for calling that 3 months ago?
Yeah. Not gonna. No, you were right. And you know what the funny thing is? I didn't believe you until they couldn't get the stop against the Raiders.
I don't really have that much of a problem with the Raider game, considering they were missing half the friggin' franchise on the field. I mean, they were basically suiting up a semi-pro team. I will get my Shane Falco jersey out of the closet if you need me to.
I love that movie.
It's such a great movie. He got me the ball.
No.
John freaking Favreau is a psychopath, you know?
This guy did Iron Man. I mean, he's revitalized Star Wars, but he was Danny Bateman. Speaking of Favreau, and because this is just going to be us tonight. Let me ask you something. Have you ever seen PCU? You like Favreau?
God, I haven't seen. I think I saw PCU once years ago.
Oh, it's one of my favorites.
Remember, he was also in Rudy. Remember, he was Monica's boyfriend in season 3 of Friends.
How about Swingers?
Swingers.
Him and Vince Vaughn.
I haven't seen that movie in 10 years.
I haven't seen it in probably 20.
This might be like a nostalgia kind of weekend, considering when I logged on, I told you I've been binge watching the original Knight Rider all afternoon after I got home from work.
Exactly. I started believing they weren't going to get there after the Raider game, and then with that debacle that was in Pittsburgh.
The Pittsburgh game was a debacle, and then they got shafted with the Packer game. And let's actually keep in mind, let's go back to what you and I talked about. I can't remember if it was the December show or the January 1st show, where I said that they were 3 blown pass interference calls. You said that they were 3 defensive stops away, and I said the 3 pass interference calls. The one against the Raiders that got botched,
and the 2 against the Packers.
And then also the Charger game. Think of what happens if they win all 3 of those games. They finish 11 and 11-6, and then they own the tiebreaker against the Bengals. But then what also that does is that knocks the Packers out of the number one spot, and then it also means that the Raiders and the Chargers aren't playing for their lives in the last week of the season because they're already eliminated.
Yeah. No, and the thing is, you can't control the referees, unfortunately. And obviously, Jerome Boger, by the way, they already announced he's not doing any more this postseason. So you already have Boger's going to losing that. You can't control the refs. What you can control is actually making plays, and that was my whole point of it. So now let's get to the question I asked John on Sunday night in the show him and I did. My contention is this. Every turnover and every scoring play in the NFL are reviewed, correct?
Correct.
Okay. My contention is, much like the targeting rule in college, if you have to review a turnover, you should be able to call the penalty if the turnover is caused by an illegal play. So having said that, he did correct me on one thing. The helmet-to-helmet rule in the NFL is a little different than college.
Yes, I did see that, yes.
So I'm going to go with my original question before I knew that. If they review that turnover in Kansas City last year on the helmet-to-helmet hit that caused the fumble that went through the end zone that Kansas City got the ball back right before halftime, I think we can both agree the Browns go in and score there and win that game, which sets up a date with the Buffalo Bills in the AFC Championship game. No disrespect to your Bills. That Browns team last year would have beat the snot out of them.
With the way that the offense was clicking, I don't think they would have beat the snot out of them. I think they would have won. I think that Buffalo didn't have the firepower on offense, but I think Buffalo's defense definitely would have kept the Browns in a little bit more check, just not enough to let Josh Allen take over.
So that means if it would have gone that way, the starting quarterback for the AFC champion Cleveland Browns would have been Baker Mayfield. Are we arguing over his status at all this season if that happens? Or does Andrew Berry go, blank check? Because now the one thing Cleveland's never seen, 3 World Series in our lifetime with the Cleveland Indians. A championship with the Cavaliers. Hell, the Crunch
and 4 other finals, too.
And 4 other finals. But the Browns in the Super Bowl? Like we said, if they win one, we'll all stand on the 480 bridge and watch the city burn to the ground.
Exactly. Even though it'll be like 12 degrees outside and there won't be enough oxygen in the air to sustain the fire, but still, yes.
There will be too many people shirtless at that parade, and you dang well know it.
That is very because the parade will last from the 480 bridge all the way into downtown, the whole 12 miles it is.
And it will last from the 480 bridge to the 12 miles downtown. It will start 5 minutes after the game goes to 000 until 3 weeks after the damn thing's over.
Right. Because no business is going to open the next day because they're not going to be able to get into the damn office.
And they're all going to be hung over.
That's 4:15 on a Sunday anyway.
That's true. Oh, side note, did you see Fitzmagic at the Bills game shirtless?
Nuts.
Love it. So we're really talking about one play that has caused this year to go into uproar. Because he could have fallen on his face starting week 1 if that would have happened, and no one would have cared. They could have gotten the floor wiped with them by Tom Brady. No one would have cared. The AFC Championship gear would have been worn. I would have gotten some too. Would have been worn by every person in probably 150 to 200 mile radius of the city of Cleveland every day for however long it took before the shirt stood up on its own and the hat looked so gross you had to buy a second one.
And let's also bring another thing into this, Matt, into this idea. It not only would have actually done that, but it also started infecting that god awful city, 90 minutes to our east. to be able. So it not only so it would have flushed all of that crap out of our city and started infecting theirs like it should be.
Don't worry, it will.
Yeah.
And I think the Deshaun Watson meme was perfect, by the way.
That was hilarious. That was hilarious. But since it is a family show, we won't go into it because we don't want people to read between the lines.
You know what? It's my birthday. I'm going to come out and say it.
All right. Yeah, I mean, you dropped an F-bomb on the show with John.
Yeah, I did, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
I didn't mean to. It just kind of came out. Well, hold on. In my defense, it was well needed.
That's true, and you haven't been demonetized yet, so you're good.
I don't make money off of this. I don't care. When I start making money off of it, we'll talk.
Right.
But in all seriousness, so I sent, sir, for those who are wondering what Jim and I are rattling on about, besides the everything, the thing that I sent Jim was a Deshaun Watson meme saying he's been signed by the Steelers because he feels he can fill Ben Roethlisberger's role on the field and off. God, I'm glad he's gone. So, oh boy, did you have fun watching them get their clocks cleaned the other night?
You know, I actually fell asleep, and I saw the watch strip sack at the very beginning, and then I fell asleep, and then I woke up right before halftime and saw what it was, and then I fell back to sleep, and then I woke up with about 8 minutes to go and watched the end of it, and it was like it was one of the better things I've seen all weekend. The only thing that topped it was actually sitting there watching my dad be forced to watch his beloved Patriots bow down horrifically to my Bills.
Oh,
on an 85-inch TV in his house.
Dude, that was one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. For those who don't know, the Buffalo Bills basically pitched a perfect game.
Yes.
No punts.
No punts.
No turnovers.
No turnovers. No field goals.
No field goals. All touchdowns.
No turnover on downs.
And no turnover on downs. And a 40-plus point beat down on Bill Belichick's New England Patriots. Again, I'm not a Bills guy, but I love that. So I want to ask you one more thing before we get into the Cavaliers. So there's this thing been going around. MLB put it out. What is the best final scene in a baseball movie? Now,
I have not seen this. This is out of left field. You did not give me time to prepare.
I didn't want to give you time to prepare because I'm not asking you which one you think it is. Let me see. Best scenes poll. Basically, they're asking you for what you think the best final scene in a baseball movie is. Now they bring up.
Are we talking the last scene of actual baseball, like being played? Or are we talking like fade to black?
Last scene of the entire film.
Okay. I was going to say, because then you can take Bull Durham out of it.
No, because they're dancing in the living room.
Exactly.
You can take, for as much as I hate to say it, you can take For Love of the Game out of it because the end of it is him and her hugging on the floor of the airport.
I gotta say, dramatically underrated movie. I love that movie.
For Love of the Game? True story. True story. I did my buddy a solid and took his girlfriend's friend to see that the night of Robin Ventura's Grand Slam single.
Oh, wow.
And I missed it. Let's just say...
It's hard to also believe that Kelly Preston's not with us anymore.
Yeah, it sucks, dude.
Dude, and this day needs to end. We need to actually stop having people die.
Yeah, today. I can't do it, man. Meatloaf and Louis Anderson on the same day. It,
I sent a tweet out earlier. Is that sure? Everyone's going to remember Meatloaf, as Robert Paulson and everything. But I also remember the afternoon show that was on before Alan Cox was the Maxwell show, and he used to tell the most god awful joke you've ever heard about Meatloaf. I know a guy who looks like Meatloaf, talks like Meatloaf, acts like Meatloaf. I guess you could say he's a pinch off the old loaf. He used to tell this joke every other day. And the only reason I remember it is because his co host, Dan Stansbury, is now, after 10 years, back on WMMS as of Monday.
is he really?
Yes, Stansbury's back in town. He was doing, I think he was doing like Canton or something like that.
Yeah, I thought, because Stansbury was there when I was still living there.
Yep. But it's and then Louis Anderson. My father has a recorded VHS tape. It is the 1984 HBO Young Comedian special from Dangerfields in New York, where it is the TV debut, the national TV debut of the late Bob Saget, Moment of Silence, Sam Kinison, Rita Rudner, Yakov Smirnoff, Louis Anderson.
Wow. That's a lineup.
And Maurice LaMarche, who's done a absolute crap ton of voice work for all the cartoons we used to grow up with in the 80s.
That's crazy. So
I remember Louis Anderson, probably my favorite joke, because this was like right after the LA Olympics in '84. Says, I tried all the events. I tried the pole vault, drove that sucker right into the ground. I did a good thing, though. I straightened out those uneven parallel bars. Broad jump, killed her. Tried all the events. I don't know if you saw me, hula hoop contest.
I saw that one. Oh, my God. And he wasn't half bad as the host of Family Feud.
Family Feud. Yep. I mean, I'd actually put him for the tiers. You got to put Steve Harvey at number one. I'm sorry. Richard Dawson's the original. You got to put Steve Harvey at number one. I actually got to say I would probably put Ray Combs at number two, and then I got to put Louis at three.
I would go Steve Harvey, Richard Dawson, Richard Karn, Louis. I liked Al was one of my favorite characters.
I did like Al, but I actually think Louis incorporated a little bit more of his stand up with his I don't want to say like one liners, but just his trigger happy, be able to jump on any comment in there as well. And I think I think that was the intangible that Al Borland never did.
That's very true. So with the movie thing, I would argue that not only does Major League have the best final scene in a baseball movie, it has the best first scene in a baseball movie. Because do you remember what the first scene in Major League is?
I used to have that movie memorized. Like,
it's the boardroom scene.
I was so in love with that movie. I actually sat there. I took like the old stereo where you can like record off the radio, and I actually like recorded the audio track, and I would listen to it on the bus.
Here's a list of players we'll be inviting to spring training this year.
This guy here is dead.
No, it's the lead up. Half these guys are way past their prime. The other half didn't have a prime.
These guys never had a prime.
This guy.
We lost our two best players to free agency. Stadium's falling apart. We don't draw a blank. Another couple of years of this, and I'm going to have to start feeding Chow Chow real dog food. I told you I have it memorized. My favorite scene from that movie as a Clevelander. Favorite scene from that movie. Favorite scene, favorite line. The one thing that you watch and you're like, I can't stop laughing like I'm in fourth grade.
I didn't know who she was. I swear to
God. For me, had to be the bloopers um, the blooper montage in the very early part of the season where they're like the three outfielders are all careening in on the ball and they topple over each other, but then the one falls and then uh, and then Wesley Snipes just goes, "Oh, bleep."
The scene where they carry his bed out of spring training and he wakes up when the gun goes off.
I've been cut already.
The scene when Tom Berenger goes after Roger Dorn at his house. Not what he says to Dorn. Not the "I'll cut your blank off and stuff him up," whatever.
Yeah.
It's the wife's coffee.
Coffee, anybody?
Forget it. Because some of the ones they talk about The Natural, which of course is a phenomenal ending with the blowing up of everything. They talk about Field of Dreams.
That wasn't the final scene. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was him playing catch in the cornfield.
Exactly. The final scene of, they talk about the final scene of Field of Dreams, which again, depending on how long you think a scene is, you're talking from, "Hey, Dad, want to have a catch," to the cars coming up the driveway. So right. The big speech coming true. But as
I actually have to say, though, probably maybe not the best scene, but definitely the one that actually makes you call your dad right after you see it.
Yeah. Yeah. They threw a couple more out there, but as I sat here thinking about it and knew I was talking to you today, I was like, no, Major League's got the best bookends of any baseball movie I've ever seen. And I've probably seen almost all of them.
You know what? And even though everyone thinks it's absolute trash, I had no problem with the ending of Major League 2 as well.
Him running out to the stands was a little much to me.
Yeah, but I liked her a lot more than I did the ad woman. She was a lot more relatable. Yeah.
Me too.
And also the fact that he could get those kind of ups in hard cleats back in the 80s to get over that wall.
He said he took steroids during those movies.
That is true.
God knows what he had going through his
system. And Roger Dorn getting tackled by Slider when nobody would celebrate with him.
That was the best. But, in all seriousness, did you hear John say he's got a Roger Dorn jersey? He had one made?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
But I tell you what.
And there was a Rube Goldberg reference, if I was not
mistaken. Yes, there was. Because I said someone needs a Rube jersey. And he started laughing because when John and I were playing ball together, when the going gets just some of Rube's quips, my mama died.
I'm on the rooster.
No.
I still say that to this day.
I'm on the rooster?
I'm on the rooster.
No. When he goes, but you know what happened? My mama died. And I didn't think about my mom.
Oh God, Aaron Burkholder.
Oh yeah, it's bad. It's real bad tonight. So let's dive into the main topic for the last 10 or 15 minutes. And that is the unreal start to this season by the Cleveland Cavaliers.
It's not even a start anymore. They're halfway through, buddy.
Well, I want to put this in some context. As my daughter wishes me happy birthday on Facebook as she's watching. Thanks, Kate. So let's talk about this Cavaliers team. Let's talk about Kevin Love was on JJ Redick's podcast and said, and I quote, "This is the most fun I've had other than 15-16 in my entire career. This is a team that should have 2 All-Stars on it. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say something else. This is the best roster since the Brad Daugherty, Mark Price, Craig Elo, Larry Nance Sr. Cleveland Cavaliers.
Top to bottom.
Exactly, because the championship runs, let's start here. The 07 team that won the conference championship had no business winning the conference championship. That man carried that team on his back to win that conference.
You know what? I actually let's sidetrack here for a very, very quick second. What was more, as a Cavs fan and a Clevelander, what was more emotional for you? The 2016 title run or that series against the Pistons? That's tough. When he came out of his
The
shell
38
and
special,
literally took over.
they're even with for me. They are in it. They're a dead heat for me because he came out of his shell with that one and carried that team. I mean, you think about it, the '07 team, as I call them, LeBron and the dumpster fires. That was probably the biggest underdog team to win a championship anywhere. Because if you look back at the teams that had been good with the other franchises, the Browns really haven't really hit their footings until this last few years since '99. The Indians were dominant when they went. I mean, there wasn't a question. They won the division by how many games each year? And the only reason we're not talking about them going to 3 straight World Series, 95, 96, 97, is Roberto Alomar.
And also, you can also throw '94 in there because they were actually going to win the World Series had they not shut the season down with the strike.
Yeah, although they were in second place.
You were on pace for a Cleveland Indians Montreal Expos World Series that year.
Yeah, because I think Chicago would have folded down the stretch. So
led by Robin Speedbag Ventura.
Hey, listen.
Jim Rome tour stop.
He played for the Mets for 3 years. Playoffs, pennant, 01. That was his 3 years as a Met.
Still never apologized to Nolan Ryan, to quote Jim Rome, for breaking his hand with his face.
It's top of his head, but I know what Romy's talking about. So honestly, it's about even with me. That 15-16, remember, that wasn't a run until they were down 3-1. That was the Eastern Conference playoffs were a coronation. They weren't a playoff series.
All 4 of those years, 3 out of those 4 years, they never got challenged, except for maybe Toronto in the third one. They never really got challenged going through the East.
Toronto. It was the second one. It was that year because they didn't lose a game in the first 3 rounds.
They didn't go 12-0 through. I know the first 3. I know the first 3 years they went 8-0 through the first 2 rounds.
Yeah. And then, of course,
Toronto actually. Yeah, I think Toronto had them down 2-1.
No, Toronto won Game 3 in Canada.
And I think that was 17.
That was 16. That was the title year.
Okay.
Toronto won Game 3, and the Cavs won Game 4 last second to go up. No, that was done in 6. They won it in 6. So Toronto won both games in Toronto. Cleveland came home, won Game 5, went back to Toronto because the NBA is stupid like that.
Right.
And they went back and won Game 6 because I remember LeBron being interviewed on the court, and the fans in Toronto were still cheering for the Raptors. And he made a comment. He goes, "This is amazing."
Yes.
So, yeah, that '07 team was special because they were a bigger underdog than that 16 team. But that 16 team, if you think about it, 1 through 7 were outstanding. Your 8th man on that team was Delly, who really didn't play in the finals, a year removed from almost being the running mate to getting LeBron the championship in the first year back.
Because he was the only one healthy.
Yeah, literally. This team with Garland and Jared Allen and Markkanen's playing good, and Kevin Love has been a revelation off the bench.
And look at how Dylan Windler has stepped up in the last couple of weeks.
Windler has been amazing. I loved him when they drafted him. Evan Mobley's going to win Rookie of the Year.
Where in the hell has Brandon Goodwin come from?
You know what?
His numbers are not great, but every time he is on the floor, he spells Sexton at the not Sexton, Garland at the absolute perfect point.
Yes, and he's a playmaker. And if you think about it, Garland is your old school throwback point guard. He wants to make his teammates make plays for them first, and then he scores when he has to. He's not like the idiot who was talking smack the other night when he was in Cleveland.
Yeah,
won you a
who
championship.
got fined 25? Who got fined 25 grand earlier today?
Who cares?
Right. And I was supposed to be at that game if it wasn't for this friggin' blizzard.
Get the Flat Earther Society to pay your fine, Kyrie, you idiot. Anyways, but this is the most talented roster, and Bickerstaff is the perfect coach.
Oh, he's gonna. I gotta. If he gets the Cavs into the playoffs and they are not in the play-in tournament, I think he wins Coach of the Year unanimously. You can take your Steve Kerr, you can take your Steve Nash, and you can shove him.
No, Bickerstaff should win that award, and I will tell you this: to have Kevin Love playing where he's at is really a minor miracle.
I'm glad you brought him up. Let me throw something out for you. Do you offer him a 2-year extension at maybe 20 to 25? Which would put him, I want to say,
17 to 20.
Which I want to say would actually have him playing here until he was about maybe 36.
But he's got to understand he's not a starter.
Which he already understands now.
Then I give him the deal. There is nothing like having a champion in the locker room. For right, wrong, or indifferent, Kevin Love was a massive part of a championship, especially here.
And basically, and now you actually bring, even if it's just for the end of the season, or if you bring him in next year, Rajon Rondo as well with that championship mentality.
Yeah, and listen, we're 2 years away from me getting what I want. And that is the Cavaliers finding a way to draft Bronny and bring him home for one more run.
You had me up until that.
Yeah,
you had me up until that.
I'm being facetious.
You better be.
But but let me ask you this.
I'm not laughing. You notice I'm not laughing.
Let me ask you this. What if he came back? What if at the end of his deal with the Lakers, he said, you know what? I got 1 year left in me. I want to go home.
Then if you sign him as a free agent, absolutely. But you actually have to sit down and Dan Gilbert and Kobe Altman and have to tell him you are not the captain of this ship anymore.
I agree with you.
This is not your team. You're going to be 37 years old at that point. Sure, you're probably going to have Wilt's scoring record. And you're going to have 4 titles and 5 MVPs. You're still going to be a top 50 player in the league, but you've been passed by right now. You are not going to come in here and start dictating personnel. You are not going to break this roster up to make a quick run. This roster right now and this way that this franchise is set up, this is going to be a contender for the next 5 to 6 years.
And that's what
barring dramatic injury.
Exactly. And that's what I'm talking about. I am talking about this isn't 2014. This isn't the essay. This isn't you did what you said you were going to do. 5 finals in 11 seasons in Cleveland. I mean, that's insanity. But for one more year, I don't give him creative control, but I let him back.
Because I just literally thought of this, and let me kind of get this out because I'm going to stumble over it a little bit. Okay. When he was here both times, he went out and he wanted to get guys to come here. Guys didn't want to come here because they knew that they were going to actually have to answer to him. They didn't build through the draft. They didn't go out and get free agents dramatically. They drafted Kyrie. They sold the farm to get Kevin Love here. They bent over backwards for him. Yeah, they grabbed Shumpert and Smith and had no idea that was going to work out the way that it was. They went out and they actually got Mozgov. You traded for Markkanen this year. If you don't actually help Brooklyn land James Harden, you don't have Jared Allen. You don't draft Sexton. You don't draft Garland. You've got Love here as the mentor because he's still on that bloated contract. Even though this is the final year of that, you don't get that extra first round pick to go out and get Dylan Windler. You don't bring in Dean Wade. You don't actually have to go out and get Rubio, who I honestly think is going to get another contract through here, at least for maybe another year or two with the way that he was playing. You've actually not gone out and brought in superstars. You've built them from within, with Jared Allen right now being the only exception because he was never going to see the floor in the way that he wanted to in Brooklyn. You don't go out and you don't acquiesce to, yes, he did bring you a championship. Yes, he is the greatest player in the history of your franchise, and it's not even up for discussion, and there's nobody else anywhere close to him. But you don't acquiesce to a guy who's going to be 36, 37 years old by the time that comes up.
No, and I agree with you 100%. I am saying that if a conversation took place where he said, hey, I want to come home, my final season, I want to play in Cleveland. And Kobe Altman looked him in the face and goes, listen, I'm not the last dude. I'm not giving you everything. This is the structure of this team. You want to play within the structure? Cool. Come on home. We will embrace you. We will love you. And on the final night of the season, we will hang 23 in the rafters. Or you can go elsewhere. You know what? I don't think at this point in his career, with the way the Russell Westbrook experiment has blown up in his face.
Did you see Stephen A. told him that somebody needs to sit him down and tell him he's not a jump shooter?
Yeah, I don't listen to anything Stephen A. says. He may be right, but I don't listen to anything he says outside of the way he makes fun of the Cowboys.
That's true.
It's the only thing he's good for. But yeah, if I had to guess right now, the Cavs are going to be the 4 seed. I think they're going to catch the Bulls, especially if Lonzo's got to have surgery now.
Yeah, he's lost for 6 to 8, and they actually, excuse me, it's going to take a couple of weeks, even though he looked like he didn't miss a step for as long as he was out. It looks like DeMar DeRozan's going to fit really nicely back in there. Yeah, they missed a golden opportunity in that game Wednesday night. But look at this week. You got Oklahoma City tomorrow night, win. You got the Knicks on Monday, who they're still trying to figure out their identity.
What happened to them?
The Knicks are the Knicks. You got Milwaukee on Wednesday. Sure, you're playing the world champions. And then you're on the road to close out the month at Detroit, who's terrible. Is it wrong to think if they don't go 3-1 on this swing that's a failure to close out January?
Are 2 of those games on the road?
All 3 of them are at home, with the exception the first 3 are at home. They are at the Romo Fijo for the Thunder. They're at Romo Fijo for the Thunder, the Knicks, and the Bucks. They are in Little Caesars for Detroit to close out the month. So
Romo Fijo. It sounds like something that CBS is going to do on Sundays on football broadcasts. You all right?
Seasonal allergies. There's no moisture in the air.
As my heat kicks on above me. It was -4 here this morning.
We're actually waiting to hear. It's my dad was supposed to text me. It's and he has not yet as to somehow, some way they got that game in on Monday in the right after that blizzard ended. It's and there were still quite a few people in the stands, but we were not there, so we're actually trying to figure out what game they're going to give us instead.
Well, let me know because that sounds like a lot of fun.
So I wouldn't mind actually going to Pride Night tomorrow night to watch them whoop up on OKC. I'd much rather actually have them do that or the Monday against the Knicks as opposed to actually watch them possibly get blown out by Giannis on Wednesday.
I think they can play Giannis tougher than that.
Giannis is still the best player in the world.
I agree,
don't give a damn what everyone says about LeBron and Steph. Giannis is still the best player in the world.
I don't disagree with you. I will say this. I think with as deeper roster as the Cavs have, Milwaukee does not have that deeper roster. So I think they can make some hay, but we'll see what happens.
But the difference is Milwaukee's got a lot more veteran, experience
That's
with
true.
That roster, whereas the Cavs are extremely young.
Oh, beyond young, which is why this is going to get scary.
So before we sign off, let me actually pose the question to you here.
Okay.
The thing that you messaged me about, I can't remember if it was very early today or yesterday, robot umpires in AAA baseball.
Yes, I was just about to say that to you. Yeah, it's one of those.
It's the 43-year-old crowd. Welcome to it.
Yeah.
Not just the Mushroom Head song either. Yes, I dropped Mushroom Head.
We have gone way off the rails. All right, so let me play devil's advocate here, and I will take the 4 side. As a former pitcher, because next time I have John on, we're going to talk about this, and we're going to talk about baseball in general. As a former pitcher, I can embrace it. Because I got to tell you something. The one thing is, as a former pitcher and a baseball psychotic as I am, that I cannot stomach is these guys with strike zones that make absolutely no sense. None. For instance, Angel Hernandez, who wouldn't know a strike on the outside corner to a left-handed hitter if it punched him in his ugly face 1,000 times.
Perfect game killer extraordinaire.
I mean, when he's got a Met game, I don't watch it. Even if DeGrom is going, and if DeGrom is going and he has a bad night, you're like, well, who's behind the dish? Angel Hernandez. What are you going to do?
Right.
So I can embrace it. Am I a purist to where it's not my ideal situation? Yes. But again, this is not the days of Doug Harvey, who was known as the voice of God. This is the days of the guys who wake up in the morning and decide, strike zone's going to be this today. And the next time you have them behind the plate, it's going to be this today. There are too many variables now, especially with guys like Garrett Cole, who can't throw strikes without having pine tar in his fingers. Talking to MLB about working with a substance that will get him better grip on the baseball. Hate to break it to you. This is the ball I caught in Cleveland. Curtis Granderson hit. I don't know if you can see it, but it's stamped practice. It's a BP ball. I can grip it pretty good.
Yeah.
And I'm a washed up 43-year-old who didn't pitch past high school. But I got grip.
Every time I actually see the grip, what I actually do is once in a blue moon, I'll turn on the clip of Michael Pineda getting ejected for pine tar on his neck, and
it was a moron.
Just listening to Michael K and his cohort talk about getting a better grip with rosin and everything. So I'm actually glad that you brought that ball out.
Look, I'm going to tell you this right now. Brush High School never had a rosin bag. I have never lost grip to the point where I've hit a batter. I never lost grip to the point where, listen, I gave up home runs that I think are still traveling. Your
Funny,
classmate
Brad
Eddie,
Lynch did too, and that was 17 years ago to Pujols. I don't
your
think that
buddy,
ball's landed yet.
your buddy Eddie Barch hit one that almost took somebody's windows out behind Greenview
March.
off of me. It's still it's circling the earth with Pujols' ball off of Brad Lynch. So
it could be the reason why our Wi-Fi goes out. It could be hitting the satellites.
yeah, probably. My neck still hurts from that shot. But in all seriousness, his ERA went up a run and a half after they said no more pine tar.
Yeah.
I'm going to have you on with Alex again. Ask Alex how much I hate Garrett Cole. But yeah, I got to be honest with you. I can embrace it. I can also understand why people won't. The game's over 150 years old. Replay on a foul ball or a horribly missed safe or out call, I can see. I can see why people wouldn't like this. But you're going to have the reinvention of the uniform strike zone. And don't get it twisted. This did not start with these umpires now. This started with guys like Eric Gregg and those boys in the late 90s giving Tom Glavine 6 inches off the outside corner to a right-handed hitter.
Right.
Or Levon Hernandez, the left-handed batter's box.
Yes. Because you've got to bring technology into the game. You look at the other three major sports. You've got it in basketball with replay and how they can go back and double check, flagrants, and then, remember back in the 80s and the 90s, the backboard didn't light up when the shot clock went off. You didn't actually have the top-down view of somebody stepped on the baseline. You've got cameras in every basic corner, essentially, and also right on the blue lines for offside calls in the NHL. You've got cameras every single place you could think to. They've got them in the friggin' pylons in the NFL. And you're telling me that the only cameras you actually have to double check things would be a foul ball or like something hanging from the outfield wall to make sure it actually doesn't hit the top of the wall and not hit the railing behind it. And also, while I'm thinking about it, kudos to the Nationals for finally pushing that wall back that they announced in time for this season.
I give no kudos to the Nationals ever. Because I hate them. No, well, we are actually 12 minutes over what I wanted to go because we get going, and again, it's special night. I'm actually
it's your birthday. It's a Friday night. Nobody's got to get up tomorrow.
I have a 9-month-old, James.
I'm trying to think of some retort that your wife's not going to shoot me over.
Nah, she won't.
No, you will.
So, real quick, love the last video. The Tennessee Titans I think, are a big favorite going into this weekend of the playoffs. So I love that. And the fact that Derrick Henry's back is pretty huge. I did not realize he was only 400 yards behind Nick Chubb, even though he missed half the year. So tell us, what's the next JC Blue Note video going to be about, or do you not know yet?
I honestly don't know. I am actually, work has been so chaotic, and then also with falling into a little bit of a rut this time of year, just because it's like basketball games and baseball, and baseball up in the air, the playoffs. There's tons of stuff to write about, but I actually don't want to fall in line about writing everything that everybody else wants. I know I'm going to actually have something because I think that Titans one was the last one I ran. It was only the second one I ran the entire year so far. So it's but I mean, I'll probably have something in the pipeline this weekend. I just don't know what yet.
No, I gotcha. As far as what's coming up with Big Rican, I'm going to probably dive face first into the baseball thing this coming week. Next weekend, I'll have that because, like I said, I'm going to try and do one a week every week this year.
It would be perfect, especially if a counter offer is going Monday.
Yeah, and then I think we're going to do a Super Bowl preview, which if you are interested, I will get the boys together and we will preview said Super Bowl.
Absolutely. I will tell you this much: if the Buccaneers are in that, I will give them no credit, and I will call against them even if they are a 40-point favorite.
Then I'm definitely going to have Tone on because he runs a Buccaneers podcast. So yeah, we're going to get him
It's
on there.
nothing against the Bucs. It's nothing against the Bucks. It's the guy who runs their offense.
I hate him too. Wait, what do you got against Byron Leftwich?
You ass.
So on that note, as always, Big Rican can be found here on both Facebook and YouTube. At Big Rican on Sport on Twitter. On Spotify is one of the video podcasts. And at the baseball show with Willie and Alex, I actually messed up. That's why it's not video, but every other one will be. Spotify, Breaker, Anchor, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Google, and Ask Alexa, play Big Rican. Jim, as always, our once-a-month talks, man, we may have to do this more than once.
We'll start earlier.
That too are always fun. Thank you again for joining me tonight. Wiseguys will come back with at minimum one show in February, but I got a feeling we're going to end up doing two with something else we got going on. So thank you, sir. I will talk to you soon. Everybody out there, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And you can I'll have it up tomorrow. Take care, bud.
Happy birthday, Mikey. I'll talk